Hi guys. If you're watching this video, this is going to be about the introduction to chapter 12, which is area and perimeter, and it's mainly going to be lesson 12.1. So before we even start, I just want to make sure that you all understand the difference between area and perimeter. I'm hoping that you all know that if I have, like, say this is a house, like a room in your house, like the living room, okay? If you want to find the perimeter of your living room, it means that you want to find out how many like feet or yards or inches or whatever it is around the outside. You are just finding the outside space. You're not finding anything in the inside. I always think of it as the perimeter is like putting up a fence around your pool. You don't want the fence to go in the middle of the pool. You want it to go all the way around, okay? If you find the perimeter, what you would do is you would add up all of the sides. So, like, I always think, first of all, like if I have this line right here, in your brain I want you to think, how would you measure it? If I said, how long is this line? Like, what tool would you use to actually measure it? I'm hoping that you're thinking, I don't know, a ruler, right? Because you could just line up a ruler against this, and you can see exactly how long this is. It's just a straight line. All you would need is a ruler. In order to find the perimeter, all you would need is a ruler of some sort, so you can measure all along the outside of the whole thing, and you would get one big number. So basically, you would be adding up all of the sides. So if this is a side, these are all the sides, you would add side plus side plus side plus side, and that would get you the perimeter. Okay? If you were going to do the area, that is something different. Area isn't, if you're in the area of your living room, you're not just worrying about the outside, you're like wanting to put carpet along the whole entire inside. That is the area. If I were going to ask you, like, how would you measure? If you had a room and I was like, all right, measure the area of your room, what would you do? Well, basically, you can't take a ruler and just measure all over the inside of your room. That wouldn't work. Basically, what somebody realized is that if you are figuring out the area, what you're basically taking is you could cut out like a square, and you could lay all the squares out in your room and see how many square feet or inches or yards or whatever would fit inside your room, because a square is two-dimensional and it takes up space. A ruler is one-dimensional, just a line. It doesn't take up space. So if you can count up the squares, you can figure out the area. And that is the reason why whatever the answer is for area, it also always equals like feet squared or centimeters squared or yards squared, because it's a two-dimensional shape and it's actually filling up space on top of the area that you are working in, okay? If you want to calculate the area, all you would have to do is, instead of counting all those squares, because nobody has time for that, all you would have to do is realize this is a rectangle, and you know that this is 3 and this is 10. Well, basically, it's saying that there would be 3 rows here and then 10 going down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, nobody has time to count all of these individual things. So instead what we do is we realize is if you take how long it is, or the length, and you multiply it by how wide it is, then you can figure out how many total squares are in the inside. That's why for area, we do length times width, okay? And then whatever our answer is, it's in feet or yards or centimeters squared. In 5th grade, what you're going to learn about is volume. And if you have, say you have a pool, and here's your pool, right? And you have, actually let's make it, I'm going to make them not have a lid on it. And you have your pool, here's your water at the top of your pool. Well, if you want to figure out how much like liquid to put in your pool, you can't measure liquid, you can't use a ruler with that, and you can't even use squares, because squares just cover the top. And if you want a pool, you want more than that, you need to fill it up all the way on the inside. So what we end up using are cubes. So instead of having a square, you would fill it with like a 3-dimensional cube all the way through, and see how many actual 3D cubes you can fit in that pool, and that's how many cubic liters or whatever it is. So when you measure volume in 5th grade, that's going to be measured in like liters cubed, because it's all cubes. And this is 3-dimensional, area is 2-dimensional, and perimeter just is a regular ending of feet or centimeters, because it's just a 1D, it's just a line, okay? So we're going to practice the difference between area and perimeter right now. First things first, if you have this rectangle, the length is always the longer side. I always think LL, length is longer. that's 5 centimeters, and the width is 3 centimeters. Well, if you want to find area, I could divide this up and then count all the squares, but again, we don't have time. So if I take how long it is and then multiply it by how wide it is, which 5 times 3 is 15, I will know that I will get 15 centimeters squared in here because there will be 15 squares inside this shape. So the area is 15 centimeter squares. If I'm figuring out the perimeter, I think about what I know about a rectangular square. This side's 3, this side's 3. If this side's 5, this side's 5. And then I have to add them all up. Well, 5 plus 5 is 10, and 3 plus 3 is 6, and 10 plus 6 is 16. So the perimeter is 16 centimeters long. Okay? I want you to stop and see if you can figure out the area and the perimeter of this rectangle, and then pause it when you're ready. All right, if I'm going to find the area of this, again, I know that the length is 8 feet long, so I would have 8 squares going across, and width is 2 feet down, so I have 2 down. Well, total, 8 times 2 is 16, so the area is 16 feet, and I'm hoping you're thinking that I'm missing something, and you're right, it's the squared, because it is 15 feet squared. Or you could do 16 square feet, you could write it like that. Either way, it would be squared. Then for the perimeter, what I would do is I would add up all of the sides. So if this is a rectangle, I know opposite sides are equal. That's 2, and then I add. I have 2 plus 2, that's 4, and I have, hang on, I'm going to do side by side. I have my 2 sides, I have one side's 2, another one's 2, another one's 8, and another one's 8. I know that 2 plus 2 is 4, and 8 plus 8 is 16, so 16 plus 4 is 20, so it's total 20 feet is the perimeter. Okay? Which makes sense if you look at it, because look at how long this room is. It's really long and skinny, so it makes sense the perimeter would be bigger than the area. Okay, now we're going to move on to, skipping this, I want you to stop and find the area of these 4 shapes only, and then pause when you're ready, or unpause when you're ready. All right, well, area, again, I know is length times width. If this is 7 long and 3 wide, I know that 7 times 3 is 21. And if I'm doing area, it's squares, so it would be 21 inches squared. Same with this one. This one is a square, so I know all the sides are equal. So if it's a square, I know I'm taking one length is 4, and the other one has to be 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 miles squared. If this one is 9 the length and the width is 2, I'm taking the length as 9, multiplying it by 2, and that would be 18 feet squared. Last one is a square again. All sides are equal. One length is 6 and the other is 6. Well, 6 times 6 is 36. 36 yards squared. Let's see. Jamal bent a 36-inch wire to make a square photo frame. All right, automatically I'm underlining, bending this, and it's a square photo frame. What is the area inside? So again, I'm trying to find all of this. Before I start, I always think area equals how long it is times how wide it is. Okay, first of all, if it's a square, I know all the sides are the same. And it says he bent a wire to make a square. So I'm thinking of a frame. It must be the outside. So 36 must be the perimeter. So I know that this side plus this side plus this side plus this side has to be 36. So if I know that all 4 sides equals 36, and I know all of these, there's 4 sides and they're all the same, well, 36 divided by 4 sides would get me to 9. So I know that every side has to be 9, and then I know that actually the area, I'm doing length times width, and I know 9 times 9 gets me 81, so I know the actual final area of this is 81 inches squared. Okay, I think, let's see, I'm going to skip this, same thing. We're going to do one more problem right now. And the problem is the length of one side of a square garden is 8 yards. Half of the garden was used for growing vegetables. What area of the garden was used for growing vegetables? I want you to pause it and see if you can figure it out, and then we're going to go over it together. If I'm picturing, and I like how they drew it, the length of, it's a square garden, so all these sides are the same. And the length of one side is 8. So this whole side, I know is 8 yards. Okay? Well, first of all, that's 8 yards. I know that this is 8 yards. And I know this is 8 yards. And I know this is 8 yards because it's a square. Half of the garden was used for growing vegetables. And then look at, they even drew it right here, half of the garden. Some people like to look at it and think, well, if this is 8 If I know total this is 8, well, half of 8, this side has to be 4 and this side has to be 4, okay? Same thing down here. This is what area of the garden was used for growing vegetables. They want to know, like, how much is in here, okay? Well, I would have to think, well, area equals length times width. So, in here, my length is 8, and my width, because I'm just doing the side with the vegetables, is only 4, and 8 times 4 is 32. So my answer must be 32 yards squared. Some people see this a totally different way. Some people see this as, they look at this square, and they're like, okay, all sides are 8, and they know that they're finding the area. What they do first is they find the area of the whole thing. So they go, oh, well, 8 times 8 is 64. So I know the area of this whole entire thing is 64. And then what they do is they say, well, I only need half of that area. So they take that 64 and they divide it by 2. And then they get 32, which is the same answer. So you could look at it either way. Okay? If you need to study, you can look in your workbook and see if that has any problems for you. But hopefully this has helped you understand the difference between area and perimeter. If you come back, look for more videos that maybe will have other lessons like composite figures and finding an area within a smaller object. Okay? Bye, guys.